of a life whose absence will be felt for generations. We meet to honor a man whose presence once commanded this very room, whose voice once summoned the best in us, and whose conviction never bowed, even to strongest winds of public opinion. President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, former head of state and former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has gone to rest. He was first among soldiers in war, first among citizens in peace, and first without ambition or flattery in the heart of his fellow citizens. Yet it was in the quiet and unadorned settings of his private life that his true greatness was revealed. Pious, without show, just without cruelty, humane without sentimentality, temperate without coldness, and sincere without guile. Steady in posture and spirit, dignified in bearing, and commanding in his very presence. His example guided all who surrounded him. Still, it endures. To his peers, he was respectful and without pretense. To those who served under him, he was kind without condescension. And to those whom he loved most intimately, he was unfailingly tender, loyal, and good. His life was a rebuke to vice and a refuge for virtue. The purity of his private character gave radiance to the discipline and integrity of his public service. Even in death, he maintained the serenity that defined him in life. Not a sigh, not a groan, just a quiet submission to the will of God. Such was the man Nigeria has lost. Such was the man for whom our nation now mourns. President Buhari's life was one of austere honor. He stood always ramrod straight, unmoved by the temptation of power, unseduced by applause, and afraid of the loneliness that often visits those who do what is right. Rather than what is popular, was a quiet courage, a righteousness that never announced itself. His patriotism was lived more in action than in words. His life traced the arc of Nigeria's journey. Born before the independence, he became a young soldier in the struggle to keep our nation whole. In war and in peace, he served with the vigilance and determination as if the task of watching over Nigeria has been assigned to him alone. From the battlefield to the corridors of power, he remained faithful to the task. He governed the northeastern state and stood as head of state. Years later, he returned to chair the Petroleum Trust Fund, which he administered with Spartan rigor and complete fidelity to the public good. Yet, with all that he had achieved, his most enduring legacy will be carved in democracy, in a time when men had lost hope that change was possible. Muhammadu Buhari put his faith in the people of this country. We stood together, he and I, alongside others, drawn from across the political spectrum, regions and tongues. We formed an alliance that enabled Nigeria to experience the first true democratic transfer of power from one ruling party to another. When he was sworn in as our party's first elected president, he led with restraint, governed with dignity, and bore the burden of the leadership without complaint. Those who knew him most intimately understood that the authority of that exalted office never changed him. In the face of pressure, he remained calm. In the face of crisis, he remained resolute. In the face of triumph, he remained modest. Most remarkably, he retained his jovial spirit. When his tenure ended, he returned to Dara, not to command from the shadows or to hold court, but to live as he always had, never seeking to impose his will, but content to let others carry the nation forward. President Buhari was not a perfect man. No leader is. But he was, in every sense of the word, a good man, a decent man, an honorable man. His record will be debated, as all legacies are, but the character he brought to public life, the moral force he carried, the incorruptible standard he presented will not be forgotten. His was a life lived in full service to Nigeria and in fidelity to God. Now he rests, and we who remain must carry the memory of life as a standard to guide us. Let us honor him, not only with words, but with humility in power, discipline in service, compassion in governance, and fearlessness in the pursuit of justice. Our Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. On Tuesday, July 15, 2025, a grateful nation bid farewell to one of our most illustrious sons. It was a proud honor for me, alongside Vice President Kashim Shettima, to lead the funeral procession to Dara and witness his burial in the dignified manner befitting a great and a noble leader. I thank the Interministerial Committee, led by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, and Governor Diko Rada for organizing a befitting state funeral within 48 hours. In this period of national mourning, I once again extend my heartfelt condolences to Ajia Aisha Buhari, our children, the entire Buhari family, the government and people of Katsina State, and all who knew and loved him. Our gratitude will remain with President Buhari's family members, who provided him with the comfort and strength to serve our nation in the various capacities throughout his over 50 years of public service. We honor his service, reflect on his legacy, and pray for the peaceful repose of his soul. May Gazukia, the people's general, the former president, your duty is done. May Almighty Allah forgive his shortcomings and grant him Al-Jannah Firdaus. May his life continue to inspire generations of Nigerians to serve with courage, conviction, and selflessness. President Buhari, thank you. Nigeria will remember you. Thank you very much. We adopt naming of University of Maiduguri with a new name as Muhammadu Buhari University, Maiduguri. Thank you very much. Now the prayers.
We gather today in solemn reverence to honor the memory of a man whose life and legacy are deeply woven into the fabric of our republic. In this very chamber, where he once presided with purpose and principle, we remember President Muhammadu Buhari, a sentinel of service, a steward of simplicity, and a statesman shaped by sacrifice. President Buhari was no ordinary figure in our national journey. He embodied quiet strength, moral clarity, and unshakable sense of duty. At a time when society was seduced by materialism, he chose a life of modest means and meaningful service. He was devoted to family and steadfast in his Islamic faith. His humor and humility softened his disciplined exterior. Buhari's belief in the brevity of life and the certainty of judgment shaped his aesthetic life and guided his public conduct. He lived not for applause or affluence, but for principle, for country, and for the cause of a better Nigeria. To me, he was more than a leader. He was a member. He was a mentor. He was a moral compass and a source of guidance. My political journey began in 2010 under the banner of the Congress for Progressive Change, a party built on his credibility and character. A few years after my election, he honored me by commissioning some of my constituency projects, making me the first member of the House of Representatives under the CPC to receive such recognition. I remember him in the blazing sun of Zaria, standing shoulder to shoulder with the people he so deeply loved. It was quite a moment that spoke volumes. Years later, in 2023, during a brief meeting in the United Kingdom, he warmly welcomed me following my election as Speaker. His counsel was clear: lead as a servant, never as a master. These words, simple yet profound, have remained my compass. In public office, President Buhari was a true partner in democracy. He respected the independence of the legislature and urged his ministers to engage constructively with Parliament. He signed into law several landmark bills that open political space to young people, strengthened our electoral processes, and laid the foundation for economic reform. His development vision reached beyond the present and into the future. The roads, railways, and bridges he built are lasting gifts to the generations yet unborn. His war against corruption was unrelenting, known to millions as Megaskia, the honest one. He lived a life free from personal scandal. His simple lifestyle was not symbolic, it was sincere. His integrity set a standard that would long outlive him. Whether as a military officer, a state governor, a federal commissioner, or a democratically elected president, he brought to every office the same discipline, devotion to duty. To those who criticize him from afar, I ask, did you truly see him, hear him, or know him? Did you witness the passion in his voice when he spoke of Nigeria, or the pride in his eyes when he spoke of our people? For if you did, you will respect and honor him. He was not a man of many words, but his words carried weight. His dreams for Nigeria were vast. His commitment to its progress unshakable. He embodied the best in us as a people. Our relentlessness, resilience, love of God, and charity to our neighbors. As we mark the end of his earthly journey, we also mark the close of a defining chapter in our nation's history. But his example endures integrity as the soul of leadership, simplicity in power, patriotism above self-interest, unity in diversity, and resilience in adversity. He gave Nigeria everything he had, from the youthful strength of a young soldier to the wisdom of an elder statesman. He never clung to power. He never sought personal reward. He served, and he stepped aside when his time was up. Let us honor him, honor his life, not only with words, but also with a renewed commitment to the values he cherished. Farewell, Babu Buhari. Nigeria salutes your service, and history in its final judgment will remember you forever. Thank you so much.
The Vice President, Your Excellency the Speaker, my brothers, Deputy Senate President, Deputy Speaker, Secretary to Government, and Ministers, let me at this point especially recognize the family of our late hero, the family of President Muhammadu Buhari, GCF of blessed memory. So I use the young Yusuf, Muhammadu Buhari, as a point of contact. I rest on other protocols, Mr. President. From me, as President of the Senate, and I want to say my fellow custodians of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there are moments in the life of a nation when she must pause, not out of routine, but out of reference. Today is such a moment as we gather in very solemn remembrance of President Muhammadu Buhari, a man forged in the furnace of battle and tempered in the trials of governance. A man who gave everything he had to a country that asked everything of him. President Muhammadu Buhari was not perfect. No leader is. But he was a very principled man. He stood for something. And in a world where it is easy to chase headlines, he chose instead to chase honor. Where others sought glory, he sought duty. As a minister in his cabinet, appointed by him, I saw President Muhammadu Buhari unplugged. He was not flamboyant, far from it. His voice was measured, his steps deliberate, his public demeanor austere. But beneath that calm exterior beat the heart of a great patriot, unyielding, unbending, and utterly uninterested in personal comfort, but duty called. He served this nation first in uniform, and decades later he returned to serve it once more, this time in flowing agbada. Whether clad in khaki or in civilian robes, through coups and campaigns, criticisms and crises, he never wavered in his belief in the promise of Nigeria. His legacy is marked by monumental achievements, too many, too vast, and too significant for me to enumerate within the time allotted to me. President Buhari did not merely pass through the corridors of power. He left his boots and imprints in them. He believed that discipline mattered, that integrity mattered, that leadership, even when lonely, must be anchored in something greater than power. He did not seek to ride waves of popular acclaim. He walked with steadiness and often in solitude, along with the reach of national conscience. And let us be honest, he was tough. He was a soldier who did not flinch under fire, a leader who did not flee from responsibility, and above all, a Nigerian whose loyalty to this nation was never up for sale. His toughness was born not out of pride, but of patriotism, a fierce, unrelenting belief that Nigeria, with all its challenges, was still worth fighting for. And yes, some disagree with him. That is the nature of democracy. But even his fiercest critics will admit that he did not pilfer the nation's purse, nor pander to its pleasures. He remained to the very end a sentinel of Spartan simplicity and austere integrity. His life reminds us of a truth often forgotten in this noisy age, that greatness is not always loud, and that history, in its wisdom, sometimes reserves its most solemn applause for those who labored not for fame, but for legacies. Let it be said by generations to come that a man once walked this land with a firm gait, a steady gaze, and an iron sense of duty. His name was Muhammadu Buhari, former president and former commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. May God bless his memory, and may his soul rest in perfect peace. And may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria that he served and loved.
Extend our deepest gratitude to Mr. President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, the Vice President, His Excellency Kashim Shettima, and his wife, Hajiana Kashim, for your outstanding, pouring support received by the family from the time he took ill until he peacefully passed on, which was Sunday, 13th of July, 2025. It has showed that he was regarded far more than a politician, but regarded as a friend and a father. To all members of the Federal Executive Council, for the care and befitting state burial accorded to our late father, we appreciate you all. I also wish to thank the Senate President, Speaker of the House of Representatives, and all the distinguished and honorable members of the National Assembly for honoring the memory of our late father during the state burial in Daura. I will also not forget to mention and convey our appreciation for the support from the Attorney General of the Federation and members of the Judiciary, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Nigerian High Commission in London, the Governor of Katsina State, Borno State as well, and all his colleagues for identifying and standing firmly with us during this difficult period. Let me specially and specifically acknowledge the Chief of Defense Staff, the service chiefs, heads of security and law enforcement agencies, as well as all members of the armed forces of Nigeria, our late father's first and primary constituency, for the esprit de corps, solidarity, and the befitting military burial given to our late father. Finally, we thank all members of the diplomatic corps, traditional and religious leaders, political associates, friends, family members, the press, and indeed all Nigerians at home and in diaspora for the numerous calls, messages, condolence visits, and prayers offered for the repose of the gentle soul of our departed father. Your visits, calls, and prayers symbolized a great honor to the memory of our late father, and we're sincerely grateful for all the support and solidarity expended to the family. May Allah continue to bless us all and to bless all of us. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy. May Allah continue to bless, to guide and protect you throughout your tenures successfully. Long live Mr. President. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you.